We do not want World War III. We certainly don't want something worse than that.
Yet the former president of the United States, talking about the investigation, the federal investigation into Hunter Biden, which is real, the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, basically asked on television for Vladimir Putin to provide information on Hunter Biden.
And just moments ago, I asked Senator Chuck Grassley, who is the ranking Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's investigating Hunter Biden himself. I asked him about whether Trump's comments were appropriate, that Putin should release dirt on the Bidens. He did not want to comment. He said he's going to focus on his own investigation.
So there are growing concerns that North Korea is preparing for a possible underground nuclear test. This would be the first one since 2017.
Today, the Biden administration is marking International Transgender Day of Visibility with a series of changes supporting transgender Americans, including the option to choose X when identifying gender on U.S. passport applications. That starts next month. And then starting next year, the Social Security Administration will no longer require doctor's notes to update gender information.
But some states are curbing transgender rights. Just yesterday, Republican Governor Doug Ducey of Arizona signed a bill banning irreversible gender reassignment surgery until the age of 18, and another bill that bars trans athletes from competing in women's and girls' sports at some schools.
And Richard, on top of all this, a new report from the Department of Commerce here in the U.S. shows that inflation in the U.S. hit a 40-year high in February, and that we should note that is the single biggest issue for 55% of Americans, according to a brand new Kaiser poll. That's almost 40 points ahead of feelings about Russia's invasion or climate change, COVID, crime. So obviously this is one of the reasons why Biden's approval ratings are so low, has brought one of the busiest, most populated cities in the world to a grinding halt. Today, Shanghai is under a full city lockdown. The government there also apologizing for having been caught off guard after a surge in new cases set off panic. And now the city of 25 million looks like a ghost town. People forced to stay at home.
And joining us now is Chris Wallace, the host of the new CNN Plus show, Who's Talking to Chris Wallace, which airs daily on our new streaming service. I'm so happy to be talking to Chris Wallace right now. I'm a huge fan. I was so excited when it was announced that you were coming over to CNN.
Well, that's really nice. This is my first appearance on CNN cable, linear, so I'm very excited to be here with you and John. Be gentle with me.
We sure will be. And it's very special to us that you're spending your first time on CNN proper here with us. So thank you very much.
This morning, we're learning more about the Biden administration's plan to roll back a controversial immigration rule. It's called Title 42 and prevents asylum seekers from crossing the U.S.-Mexican border. It was started during the Trump presidency as a way to prevent the spread of COVID and is expected to go away on May 23rd. Epidemiologists have questioned if the rule was actually an effective public health tool in the first place. To date, though, it has blocked more than 1.7 million attempts to cross into the U.S. Joining me with more details, NBC's Julia Ainsley. Hey, Julia, so why is the administration reversing course on this now?
Well, for one thing, restrictions, as we know, on COVID are lifting across the country, and also because they've been sued. I mean, there have been numerous challenges from immigration rights groups saying that they do not have the legal authority to continue to implement a public health order when they can't show exactly how this is preventing the spread of COVID-19. For example, they allow unaccompanied children and most Ukrainians to cross the border now, but they were using this to keep out single adults and families. It's hard to make that argument from a public health perspective on who could be spreading this and who couldn't. So at this point, they have made a plan to lift Title 42 for all immigrants on May 23rd, which means they will go back to the status quo where any immigrant who arrives at the southern border will be able to make a claim for asylum.
So as you know very well, some folks are very worried, warning this policy gets lifted and then there'll be a surge of migrants crossing the border. But I want to play what White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield said about that yesterday.
Of course, we are planning for multiple contingencies, and we have every expectation that when the CDC ultimately decides it's appropriate to lift Title 42, there will be an influx of people to the border. And so we are doing a lot of work to plan for that contingency.
So do we know much about what the administration is doing to prepare?
So that's right. We understand that DHS is surging resources. They have a plan that will go in place also at the end of May, where they will allow asylum officers to adjudicate those claims right there at the border, rather than adding to the already almost 2 million case backlog in immigration court. So the people who have a legitimate right to asylum can get that answer more quickly, and the people who don't would then be deported. This is part of what they're doing, but of course local officials are worried. They've already seen sky-high record immigration rates over the last year, and they're afraid that their communities simply won't be able to take on what could be a surge when people find out that this is lifted.